What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel here, the Triple Play Fantasy Network. We got another mock draft for you here on this Monday. D. Mendy here, joined by my partner in crime, Kevin Coleman at DuBois_22. Kev, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited. We're getting these mock drafts underway, and I love the fluidity of the mocks, where they're going right now. The values are changing like crazy. And I know people are doing mocks or real drafts right now because you guys are a bunch of degenerates. So this is a good time to kind of jump in and see kind of where dynasty values are going.
Kev, before we jump into things, I got to ask you, when is too late to say Happy New Year's? What's the last day you can do it before it's egregious?
I would say it's already past that point. I feel like once you went back to work and seen people, you really can't say Happy New Year's anymore.
So you're very stingy with it, like a day or two, and then
I'm a
Grinch.
Like, I'm pretty much just a Grinch. If you ask my wife, that's me. That's who I am. But I tend to just say, yeah. Once the first is over, it's pretty. If you tell me Happy New Year's now, I'm gonna say something probably.
Oh, I'm glad I didn't wish you Happy New Year's because we haven't recorded since New Year's together. But we're not here to talk about news. We're here to talk about another mock draft for you guys. We've got a third round reversal mock draft here. Our too early 12-team Superflex Dynasty third round reversal mock draft. Now, Kev, I got to be honest with you. This is legit my favorite format of drafting. I know you talked about tight end premium last week being one of your favorite. I think this helps balance the playing field for people that do not get the first pick. And I was personally not exposed to this till about a year ago. And I was like, why are all drafts not like this? Like this. And I think even there are some people that document it out there that this balances out the percentages as far as winning a championship. So hopefully this is something that becomes the more of the norm as we kind of get more and more different types of drafts and different ways of drafting. What are your thoughts on the third round reversal and what you can do at the end as you shape your team?
Yeah, I love this way. And I think the first time I really did it was with the Scott Fish Bowl. So those of you that don't know the Scott Fish Bowl, that's just, Scott Fish obviously knows what he's doing when he comes to commissioning. And I think it does. And I do want to bring something up. I want to show everybody this. This basically breaks down kind of like your startup pick values. And so these values come from a lot of different areas. A lot of it is keep, trade, cut. But this is from the dynasty process. And basically you see your startup pick values here. And you can stop the video and really dive into it. But you'll notice that if you get the last pick based on your values and what it looks like, if you do a reversal, look how even these teams are. So if you get the last pick, you still have a chance to kind of build the team through the 112, the 201, and then the 301. And then if you look at the first pick, you have obviously the value of the first pick is enormous. You still get your second pick, but even though you get your third pick at the end of the third, you still see that value is the same because you're getting that fourth pick. So if you notice it where team B is, I think that there's some good value with how you look at it. So if you just notice this, the numbers, the analytics all say that if you can build your roster like this, it creates a more even league. And I think that you have more consistency throughout the league this way from all the teams, not just like, the first and the 12th, the later teams there. And I think it just adds to construction of your rosters. And I think it's a lot of fun to do it this way because it just adds fairness to everybody.
It really does. And for the people that complain, hey, I got the last pick, I never get the first pick, I never get to take the Christian McCaffreys, or I never get to take the Derrick Henrys because I never have that opportunity. But this allows you, again, you get shot at guys that you weren't getting before when you just do a typical snake draft, and you get that advantage when you pick your second and third round picks there. So it does create that sort of balance that Kevin alluded to there. But we're going to dive in without further ado to the draft board for this third round reversal draft. Kev, you had the first pick, and this is, again, for people that didn't understand, I'll show once again, this is just a Superflex Dynasty third-round reversal draft, 12-team. So Superflex means, again, quarterbacks are most likely going to go higher end here. You went Patrick Mahomes, top of the draft. Is he, you're no doubt about it, still your Dynasty QB1?
To me, he is. I've had some pushback from people that I know and people that watch these that say Allen should be there. I do think that there's a smaller tier than it used to be, and I do think that's there. But I still want Mahomes in that offense, and I do think they're going to draft a wide receiver. So to me, in my opinion, I'm going to take Mahomes at the 101, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It definitely, like you said, it's a little bit more of a cluster, but Mahomes still looks like to be the safe bet there. One of the things we did want to address, staying with quarterbacks for a second, is the rookie quarterbacks. And Trevor Lawrence went here at the 12th pick. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. A little rich for my blood, but I think it's just very interesting because after Trevor Lawrence, the next pick wasn't until the third round with Justin Fields. Do you think this is too high for Lawrence, too low for Fields? And obviously Trey Lance went that round as well. What are your thoughts, at least for these first three guys, and then we'll get to the other quarterbacks from this draft?
Yeah, so we're looking at that 2021 quarterback class, which I think the values are interesting to look at. So Lawrence has gone, and if you've watched the other mock videos, which you should, has gone all over the place. You saw him, I believe, in the last one, he went at the 212, which to me is a value. Like, you're going to get Lawrence at the 212. This is interesting because he goes in the first round. And then you have Fields and Lance coming next. I'm going to tell you they're valued very differently. On keeptradecut.com, Lance is valued as the number one, and Fields is valued as the number two. And Lawrence is actually down to 3 for value. And I just ran a poll for the video, and Lance won over 1,400 people voted. Who would you rather have right now, Lance or Lawrence? And Lance won with 68% of the vote. So Lawrence's value is really, really declining. He's in a weird spot because if you draft him in the first, you're drafting him as absolute ceiling, and you have to have a high hope for that Jaguars ownership. If you draft him at the end of the second and third, though, he's right in that prime. Like, if he breaks out like Burrow or he does those things, now you're looking at like you can win your league with. So I think it really matters about the board. In my opinion, if I was drafting from the 112, I won't reach on Lawrence, because if I could get a guy like Lance or Fields or these guys in the second or third round, more likely the third round, that's when I would take him. But I do think the reversal plays a role in this too, because you could tell the 12th team, hey, he's going to take running back, and he kind of knew that he's coming back. And when you know you're not going to get 2 picks in a row in that third and fourth round as the 12th team, maybe you do want to reach for a quarterback here, and that's why he went here with this dynasty pick.
Yeah, no, I like that. And again, we also just did talk about the third round reversal. So Bryce NFL was the beneficiary, basically. So again, how it works is he took Trevor Lawrence, then took Najee Harris. The whole second round commences. And then right where Kev goes and takes Javonte Williams, instead of him getting to take Deshaun Watson right there, it goes back to Bryce and he gets to take Derrick Henry. So Deshaun Watson was not back-to-back with Javonte Williams. So that's just something for you guys to realize again, that Kev doesn't get those back-to-back picks there as you see in other drafts. But speaking about our other drafts, I think it's been kind of interesting too now. This has been our third straight week of doing some mock drafts, and we've been seeing a little bit more recency bias with some of these picks. You know, I noticed right now Jalen Waddle, when we first did it, he actually went in the 6th round. When 5th, 6th round, when we did our first one. Now you took him with the first pick of the 4th round. You seem really high on him, and I've seen this on Twitter over the last few days here. Do you like Jalen Waddle long-term over Devonta Smith?
Yeah, I would agree. I would say yes. And the reason why is right now, Devonta Smith is getting valued less than Elijah Moore. So we just did another poll. I did over 2,000 votes on this one. And Elijah Moore, people want Elijah Moore more than Devonta Smith. And to me, Waddle is the clear-cut kind of guy there. He's going to get the targets with what we've seen. I would be okay with Waddle being my wide receiver 1 on my roster. And the thing about these mocks, it really fine-tunes you guys, because the first mock I did, or last mock I did, I actually took Deontay ahead of him. That's not, I don't think, what you would want out of this. So in my opinion, I think Waddle can be your wide receiver on your roster, and you're happy with it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And again, just looking across the board here, Calvin Ridley you took in the 5th, which I think is good value. Right now, there was news that came out today that he looks like he's going to be traded. So you would think he plays again. And, you know, this is kind of getting Calvin in the 5th round is a pretty good value there. Just some other ones. Amon-Ra St. Brown sticks out to me in the 8th round, where he was going even later, obviously, when we first started this, but he's been basically a top 5 wide receiver over the last month of the season. Now, do you think that this could be too much recency bias, or do you think this is where he deserves to go in this format?
That's a little early for me, man. And I think it's just when you're looking at it, I think he's getting drafted at a ceiling right now. And I'm not okay with that. What I would say with Amon-Ra and where I've always had him in terms of where I'm at with dynasty-wise and who he is, he's Tyler Boyd. In my opinion, he's Tyler Boyd before Chase and Higgins, right? And then if they get another guy in the draft, he's still Tyler Boyd, which is fine. Like, that's an okay pick if he has it. Now, as far as this roster construction, if he's your 4th wide receiver, I don't hate that for Tyler Boyd, right? So, and you could tell that he went no running backs, as you can see, and he went Hunt, Madison, those guys. So he's kind of going the 0 running back strategy, which is not a bad strategy. You got Michelle, these guys. So if you're going to do that, fine. So if you're drafting Amon-Ra as your wide receiver 4 at this format, okay. I still think that's kind of a reach just because I don't know what that offense is going to look like with everybody there with all the areas. But I do know that people love Amon-Ra right now. And to me, if you're drafting, you should look at him as a wide receiver 3 option like Tyler Boyd.
So obviously, I think many people are saying you can sell him right now, probably for the max amount of value you could get from. Or it sounds like you're in that same camp as well.
I guess. I mean, the thing is like everybody says sell, 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 but what does that really mean? Like if you're gonna sell right now, his price is a second round pick. Why are you gonna sell him for the pick that he probably was in some of your drafts, right? Like
Hmm.
late second. Like if you can get a first, yeah, I did see somewhere where 30% were okay giving up a late first. Okay, if you could do that and you are really big on like Rondale Robinson, Garrett Wilson, who probably going to go earlier than that, but Jamison Williams, Drake London, if you think those guys who are coming into this draft class will be better, then I would move him for that. If you're moving him just for a second, I feel like it's a weird trade unless you really fall in love with someone, but that's someone that you would move like as the draft was going, not right now based on so many unknowns.
No, I feel you on that one, Kev. I want to go back to the quarterback position though, and touch on the other two rookie quarterbacks from this class. Zach Wilson and Mac Jones both went in the 5th round. Zach Wilson going first here. Do you like the value for these two rookie quarterbacks?
Yeah, what is your so my opinion is I like Zach. I think Zach Wilson is going to get weapons next year, and they're going to kind of build around him there. In the 5th round, that's not terrible, especially with what he has. He has Rodgers and Zach Wilson there. I would probably draft Zach Wilson before Mac Jones because I think when I draft, I'm looking for ceiling play. I
Yeah.
feel like Zach has a higher ceiling than Mac. Mac is a very fine quarterback, but he's nothing more than a QB2 guy, in my opinion. He's that QB2. That's where you have him there. I think both of the guys are drafted in the right round. I think that it's a pretty value pick there with where you're at. But I do think that they're significantly lower in a tier than Lance and Fields, though. So like that is where don't overreach on those guys. Lance and Fields are clear cut above, especially just from dynasty perspective. They get better offenses. They're in pretty good organizations as long as Nagy's gone, which it sounds like he is. I would go there. Jones and Wilson, interesting. 5th round's about where they're valued at. I would probably go on Wilson for a higher ceiling play. Mac, if I have like if I had Dak like he does, Mac's a pretty good solid too, right? And then he drafts Brady later. That's not a bad area. So it depends on how you just your roster construction is there. But I agree. I think these quarterbacks pretty much go where you would expect. Like when you're looking at the board and you see kind of where Fields is or Lance is. I think the league winner this year is going to be Deshaun Watson, though. Like if I could look at what I was able to do, Mahomes and Watson with Javonte and Waddle. And so if I was able, if those guys all play, if Deshaun comes back and he's ready to go and he's a starter, you're looking at Mahomes and Watson, who are what, top 5 dynasty quarterbacks last year before all this stuff happened. I think that right now is the value. If you're willing to take the risk on Deshaun, you could build a hell of a roster.
Yeah, this is the 2nd straight draft. Or have you taken Deshaun Watson in all 3? I know it's been in the
I
last
think
2.
so. I need to stop doing it because I want to see where other people value him. But I feel like it gets to the 3rd round, like why not take a shot on a guy that still has that value? You know what I mean? And that has that value roster. And if you think that he can be there, and I drafted pretty young, so even if let's say he for some reason he's suspended for 8 games, I can still build a dynasty roster with the dynasty team I have.
Yeah, the only really place where I don't love your team is your running backs because I love your obviously your RB1 and like you said, the upside with Deshaun Watson, you have Jalen Waddle and Calvin Ridley's kind of in that same camp as Deshaun Watson in a sense is he's not going in the 5th round if he'd stayed healthy all this
Yeah.
year. So like you're getting an insane value with Calvin Ridley there. Rashad Penny, Devin Singletary are guys that I'm not necessarily too high. Obviously, Rashad Penny's he's looked
Come
good
on.
now. He's going to get hurt like the first game of next year, if not in his next game. He's shown that every year. And then Devin Singletary, I know he's somebody obviously looking great right now too, but I don't think he's the long-term answer for starting running back in Buffalo. I wouldn't be shocked if they address that position in the offseason through the draft, through free agency, whatever, and they have a better option in place starting for next year. So everything about your team from your RB1 to your wide receivers to your quarterbacks, TJ Hawkinson is your tight end in the 6th round, I think is a great pick there. Again, just running backs behind Javonte Williams is the only place, and Brevin Jordan right back where you got him too, I think is also a great pick there. But it's really hard to make a perfect, flawless team. One thing I also will say, just going back for a second to the Zach Wilson, Mac Jones thing, keep in mind what your league settings are because you brought up the Scott Fish Bowl, and someone like Mac Jones, I would take over Zach Wilson if it was that type of format, which is Scott Fish this year made it very heavily weighted to incompletions and interceptions. You lost a lot of points from quarterbacks doing that. So taking someone like Mac Jones there over Zach Wilson to me is a slam dunk. But if you're in just a regular like PPR league where incompletions, interceptions are kind of the standard, incompletions don't worth anything, and interceptions are -2. Zach Wilson gives you so much more of a upside with his rushing ability. You know he's going to obviously probably throw the ball a lot more than Mac Jones because New England likes to run the ball a lot more than the Jets do. So in that sense, Zach Wilson is the better play. But it's kind of a reminder to make sure you know your league settings, not just your draft format, but your league settings too, because that can affect which players at that position you want to take.
I think that's valid. You understand your settings and understand where incompletions come in there. But if you're just drafting in a standard league, I think 4 or 6 point touchdowns matter too. And I do think if you have 6 point touchdowns, I would still lean Wilson, and especially in that offense. I do think that the Patriots will lean on their running game more than the Jets. I know you're a Michael Carter truther, but I am not. Like, I don't think that's going to be the big value there. So I think it's interesting. I do think it's interesting into that and mindset. I did want to ask you a question though. So if you're looking at, I really think there's a tier. So you see the quarterbacks that got taken there, Wilson, you're looking at basically Jones, and then there's a bigger gap. And then you get into Tannehill, Brady, Carr, Cousins, Jordan Love is in the ninth. That next tier of guys, and the other guy too that I wasn't shocked, but hey man, Davis Mills went in the 9th round. Like, do you see any of those guys where you're like, hey, I have to go grab this guy as my second quarterback? And there's a lot of question marks about Carr, Cousins, and stuff. So what is your opinion on that little group in there that you see there, Winston, those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not thrilled if Winston's my second quarterback. Jordan Love is Jacob's third. So at that point, there's a little bit more of like, okay, at least you don't have to necessarily rely on him. I guess he's a bench option. And if Aaron Rodgers leaves, you do have Green Bay's starter right there, which is good. I'm not a Derek Carr fan, so I will never draft Derek Carr in any leagues. So I can't say I love that pick. But, I mean, Tannehill, Brady, obviously you have to construct a more of a win now roster if you take those guys. And, you look at the guy that took Ryan Tannehill, Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase, Trey Lance, Terry McLaurin, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So it's a pretty young roster. Trey Lance, obviously his QB1. So the Tannehill pick there, I guess, kind of helps steady the Trey Lance one a little bit there. You look at the guy with Dak Prescott as his QB1, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Mark Andrews. He's got Mac Jones there. So Brady's his third quarterback. So I don't think that's bad because you basically can play Brady as a QB2 while he's super effective. And then you still have Mac Jones there to still have youth on your side. It's not like you're going to be relying on Brady and then you have nobody else there to step in when he does eventually stop playing football. But in this range, I think when you take the veteran, you have to make sure you've talked about on other episodes before, look at how you're constructing your roster, because these are guys that, you might be able to rely on for 2 or 3 years, but if you don't have somebody capable of stepping in for them, then that could be a problem. I do like the Davis Mills in the 9th round. I think that's a pretty good value. Don't love Carson Wentz and Tua Tagovailoa as my 2 starters. So I would say probably if I were looking at that from the Matt 2 Frosty FF, that's a little scary to me and taking Wentz in that area. What are your thoughts about the quarterbacks here?
Well, first of all, how dare you slander the good name of Derek Carr, who finished as quarterback 12 this year? Derek Carr finished as quarterback 12 this year. He was a QB1, David. What do you say to that?
He was QB 13 last year too. Like, he gets there, but it's
damn,
ugly.
look at that. I don't care if it's ugly. I don't care what you look like. I will. The caveat is this: will Derek Carr get that contract? So I do think if you're drafting now, it's concerns, and there's always a risk drafting now, and this is kind of like the area of it. I think there's great value in drafting now, but there's great risk, right? When we're talking about this, but damn it, Derek Carr deserves more respect out of your mouth than that. I would say, go ahead. Do you want to defend yourself?
I'll give you a retort for that in a second. You can finish your point.
Okay. So what I would say is when you're looking at those quarterbacks, I think there's some no man's land there. To me personally, if you're in a super flex league, I am trying to draft 2 quarterbacks in the first 4 rounds. If I can do that, I'm happy, especially just so I don't have to worry about it. And I'm notorious of going 1 running back and then I'll just wait. And that's what I did in this draft. So if you could do like that and build through your wide receivers, I think there's a value there. But if you're relying on Mills or these other guys to be your second quarterback, I'm a little nervous for you because a lot of things can change. Houston could trade for a quarterback because Deshaun wants to get traded. There's a lot of things in there in terms of the quarterback position that you got to really focus on. I don't mind the Wentz pick. At a certain point, I do think that he's going to be limited for his ceiling, but I don't hate it because we know he's going to be back next year. If they make the playoffs, he's going to be back next year. So when we're looking at kind of this area of there, you have that. Cousins is another guy. Will he be back? New regime. What's going to happen there? And the safest guy in that area is probably Derek Carr. maybe, right? So there's some question marks in that group. Tannehill will be back. Wentz will be back. But I look at them as 1-year guys, and I need to move forward and try to grab somebody else.
So to retort your Derek Carr thing, if you go to PFF, you can see weekly finishes among quarterbacks. Derek Carr is the only one in the top 13 that did not have any top 5 finishes this year. Actually, he's the only one. Every other one had at least multiple top 5 finishes this year. And he finished this year as QB 20, 22, 20, 21, and 24 the last 5 weeks of the season. He's so up and down, Kev, that if you're relying on him come playoff time, you're not confident because he's not consistent. He may finish. It's that classic example like DK Metcalf this year for wide receivers, where you look at his numbers at the end of the year, and I think he scored like 12 touchdowns, and you're like, oh, that's actually not a bad year, but like 8 of those touchdowns came in 3 games. So you didn't necessarily get the consistency all year. You probably benched him because you were getting frustrated at certain points. Derek Carr is the same thing. At the end of the year, he's there. But I think part of the process too is like, hey, if he's going to have 5 straight weeks as a QB 20 or higher, then that's not good. Like you're probably not playing him at that point.
All right, listen, straw man argument here. Like that's very like I'm not going to be able to sit here and say, oh yeah, these 5 games he's going to do bad. He obviously did good enough to finish as a top 12. I get what you're saying though. But if you're drafting Derek Carr in the 8th, you're drafting him as your quarterback 2 or 3, right? Like, so I think everything is perspective. If he can give me quarterback 2 numbers, but I have a solid guy like he has Kyler Murray, I'm okay with that because I know Murray's going to be probably a top 5 finisher. How many times did he finish that this year before the injury? And then I have Derek Carr there. So inevitably that's what I look at. But we can always use those like Hill. Tyreek Hill had a shitty last 2 games, right? I think he scored 13 points combined. Like there are things that you have to look at, but I get from your perspective. But out of that group, I mean, I'm pretty confident in Carr over Jordan Love and Winston.
For sure.
And Mills, like they've done it. And I think Derek Carr is going to find a role somewhere. So that's the interesting thing. I will say also, I don't think Baker Mayfield got drafted in the top 12. That's something new that we've seen.
It's interesting. You're right. Yeah.
So I noticed that.
Oh, there he is. He's down here in the round 11.
12. Yeah, 11 or 12. That's interesting, especially because he come out with surgery. So Baker's value has plummeted. I think in the first draft we saw him get drafted a little earlier. So look for Mayfield. That could be maybe a value that you can find later now in drafts and have it.
I also think I have to double check for sure. I'm pretty sure Dawson Knox has slipped some too since our first draft. I mean, he's going in the 11th round. I wouldn't have been shocked to see him going ahead of Gesicki and Freiermuth in other drafts. I'd have to check that. Definitely, I mean, Irv Smith, I don't think had even been drafted in any of our other drafts that we've done.
So Dawson Knox went in the 9th in the first one. So the first one that we did, he went in the 9th round. I just looked, and that wasn't premium. Tight end premium, he got jumped up really early, like 6th or 5th round. But in this one, so yeah, I think people are unsure of what that Dawson Knox value is right now.
Yeah, it just shows it's very interesting. A lot of people can be very recency biased. He just had 0 catches last week. They're saying, maybe Buffalo brings in some more playmakers next year. And, that could obviously be a detriment to his role. Let's wrap this up really quick, Kev, and let's each pick our favorite team that we saw drafted. You're not allowed to pick your own. That's the caveat. I was not in this draft. So out of every team here besides your own, who had the best draft in your eyes?
Man, I can't pick my own. That's rude. Okay, so if I was looking at this draft just based on kind of the mindset, how they built their team, and kind of how I kind of built it, I was looking at it. I like Fantasy Mike's draft with Burrow and Brown.
Pick a different one.
Is that the one you were gonna pick?
Yeah,
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that draft. You can just pick mine. It's fine, David. I like Burrow, Brown, Mixon, Eckler. That's great value for Eckler in the 4th. Getting Kittle in the 5th, and then you get Judy if a better quarterback comes in there. I really like that. The only thing I would worry about with his team is that second quarterback with Winston. If you're hoping that it's there, but I do like his first start. I think that's a really good start.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like it too. Kittle in the 5th, Judy, Bateman, some young guys. Ramondre Stevenson, I think, is going to be the lead back in New England sooner rather than later. So getting him in the 9th round, I think, is a great value there. Obviously, Jameis Winston is his QB2, is maybe you need a little bit of help there. But Kadarius Toney and Van Jefferson, where he got them. But
I like Harvey's draft too.
That's exactly where I was going. Harvey's is the other one that stuck out to me. Jonathan Taylor, obviously, Jamar Chase, Trey Lance. That 3 right there is awesome to start out. Saquon Barkley in the 4th, you could say what it is, but 4th round isn't horrible value for him. Terry McLaurin, this is a big dip on Terry McLaurin, too. Imagine if he actually gets a capable quarterback. Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't have Allen Robinson syndrome his whole career. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who
Hey,
me and him, but
it's
taking
weird.
him.
You know what? CH went in the ninth in mine, ours. Remember?
Yeah, he did. This is obviously a big. Maybe he's a
And
CH guy like me.
yeah, well, maybe, unfortunately. But hey, I mean, that's an interesting value jump, right? So these are the
Yeah.
things we're trying to tell you is like the values can be different.
Yeah, and then obviously Renfro, great pick. Obviously his value sky high right now, but 8th round is pretty good. Tyler Lockett, Cole Kmet, and Gronk there at the end. I think definitely. It sounds like we were both on the same page here that Harvey and Fantasy Mike stuck out to us as the two best drafts and two best teams in here. Obviously, a lot of teams look good, but those two stuck out to me as well. But as you can see, when you gather this many good fantasy analysts from Twitter, that many of them are going to have their guys. They're going to also, you can see how they value certain guys. You can see how they like to draft, how they like to stack their teams. So it's really interesting just to kind of see all these different roster constructions where guys get pushed up or pushed down. And, we're going to keep seeing that as we keep doing these mock draft episodes. So
Yeah, no, I think so too. And I think the third round reversal is something for you guys to really look at and see, like, maybe we should implement in these in redraft and in other drafts just based on value. And I thought this played out very well. I thought these were more balanced teams than the other two drafts. And so take a look at that because I think that's an important thing to kind of mention.
100%. And we'll close the book on that there. Third round reversal draft in the books. We'll have another one for you guys next Monday where it's going to be a different format, of course. And if you're interested in getting into these mock drafts, you can either DM the Triple Play Fantasy account at Triple Play Fantasy, or you see Kev and my both. Our Twitter handles at the bottom there. Send us a DM if you want to get in on one of these, and we'll make sure we get you in and we can draft together and have some fun. But we're going to close the book on this episode right here. Again, thank you all for your support each and every single episode. We just reached 1.44K on Twitter, so appreciate all you guys tuning in. Leave a comment below. Make sure you thumbs up the video. That algorithm is huge for getting more people to check these videos out. And maybe if we reach 2K before a certain point, I can get Kevin to shave again. We'll have some kind of thing. Maybe I know you guys all want to see what's under that beard, so maybe we'll work something out for that. But Kev, anything else you want people to know?
Oh, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate you guys' support. And always, we're just trying to create a community on the channel. And if you have any questions, anything, reach out to us. That's what we want, a community for fantasy sports, all three sports that we cover for you guys.
Yep. Couldn't say it better myself. Again, until next time, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next Monday.